This is the time of year that people are calling and they are starting to plan their winter camping trips. They are booking cabin stays, booking fishing trips, and one of the most common questions we get is, what should I bring with me to catch those lake trout through the ice? This is an example of most of the lures that I use lake trout fishing up here. And I think that I got just about everything. There might be an odd one out, but this definitely covers 99% of what I use to jig through the ice for lake trout. And we'll start with spoons. We've got two classic spoons here, Little Cleo and Dr. Spoon. Great jigging spoons that a lot of people have. Tip them with a minnow, jig, and you're good to go. They come in lots of different colors, lots of different sizes, and really are great vertical jigging spoons. The next two are also classic spoons that a lot of people have in their tackle box. And I'm not sure they're actually spoons. Maybe you classify them as jigs. One is definitely a spoon. Castmaster and a Swedish pimple. Once again, phenomenal vertical jigging baits. Tip them with a minnow and you're good to go. You'll see this one doesn't have one of those snap ring swivels on it. One of these things. You definitely want to put those on. Otherwise, the edges in there can be kind of sharp and they can cut your line. But these are great jigging baits to use, and a lot of people already have them. You don't need to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. Northland buckshot spoons. Those are great. Actually, they're more jigs than spoons. Fantastic lake trout bait. I really like the blue color. They come in a bunch of different sizes, a bunch of different colors. Tip them with minnow, and you're set. These Bucktail jigs are another classic lake trout lure, and they work really well. These are both Northland. Fantastic. I really like that color. It kind of looks like some of the bait fish up here. I've always had a lot of good luck with that color. You'll see I have an airplane jig that I'll show you that is that color too, but these are classic lake trout lure, and there's a reason, because they do deliver. And then the most iconic lake trout lure there is, the Northland airplane jig. Nothing looks like this when you jig it in the water. They're just fantastic. Nothing will twist your line like this, so you want to make sure you've got a swivel somewhere to help with that line twist, but they're fantastic. This lure has probably caught more lake trout through the ice than any other lure for lake trout ever made. I love them. One of my favorite jigs for lake trout is kind of a one-off. It doesn't really fit into any of these categories here, but it is this Northland Whistler jig with this spoon on it that spins. Tip with a minnow, and they are fantastic. I just started to use these a few years ago, and they're great. It's a very simple presentation, but very effective for lake trout. I think that the vibration in the water, the noise, the flash, they just love it. Yeah, that's Northland Whistler prop jig. The last thing we'll look at is soft plastics, which I hadn't used until the last few years, or at least I hadn't used much, and now I really am a true believer. I've caught a lot of really great lake trout on them, and they look great in the water, and they're easy to use. I use two kinds. One kind is this, which is a Kalin's jerk minnow with one of these jigs on it. I don't remember what the jig is called. It's got a blade and a Gamakatsu hook, but this has been a great trout bait tipped with a little bit of minnow or a little tiny piece of cut bait. It's been really good. And here's what the Kalin's jerk minnow package looks like. So it's the 4-inch jerk minnow in shiner. I really like anything shiner, blue, white, silvery. That is what I would use. My favorite bait at the moment for lake trout is this setup. And this one is a little ripped up because it's caught some fish. And this is kind of out of the ordinary. I'm using a tube that's a 3.5 inch white power tube. And one of these Berkley Gulp darter heads. It's got that great big thing there to hold baits on, and I'm not really sure it's designed for tubes, but for vertical jigging it looks incredible. It's got a really good strong 3/0 hook on it. They're really sharp, really nice hooks. This is kind of the more classic hook you would use with a tube, but I don't like it as much. I like the yellow and the white, and I like the way it looks in the water, and I've caught tons and tons of fish on them. I use a couple different kinds of tubes. The Berkley power tube, 3.5 inch, is really nice. Lunker Hunt. These, I have a bunch of these. I haven't used them a lot, but they catch fish. I'm not sure there's much difference between this and power bait, but they've been phenomenal. And that is that. That is what I use to jig for lake trout through the ice. Hopefully this helps people out a little bit and gives people some ideas. You don't need all of this, but a nice selection of stuff like this and you will be good to go for any situation. Big trout, little trout, you know, whatever you're doing, this stuff will work.